Hey friends, I can't believe it, but I actually did it. I came up with a list of my best books of 2025. So I wasn't sure that I could actually come up with these best of lists because 2025 was a rough reading year for me. It wasn't the worst. I would say the worst was when I was in college and didn't read for pleasure at all. But it was a little rough. I didn't have a lot of books that I really enjoyed, or I didn't think I did until I started looking back to make these lists. And I was able to come up with a couple of lists. I have a fiction best of 8 fiction books. I also have nonfiction, middle grade, and then a couple of superlatives we're just going to throw in for books that were memorable reading experiences that I wanted to mention but weren't on my favorites list. I'm going to break up the video series into 2. So today we're going to talk about the best of for fiction. And then in part 2, I will talk about the nonfiction, the middle grade, and the superlatives. So the fiction, like I said, there's 8, and I would say probably the top 3 are in good spots, and would be in those spots when, any day of the week. 4 through 8, you could kind of just throw up in the air and depending on the day would be in a different order. But I feel confident that the top 8 are the top 8. So we're going to go in order. Least favorite as of today, least favorite to favorite. So at number 8 is actually a book that I can't find my copy. I don't know if I unhauled it or not. And that is The Last Story of Mina Lee by Nancy Ji-Young Kim. I read this as part of Catch Up-a-thon. It was a book of the month book, and I was catching up on reading my book of the month as part of that readathon. And it's a book that I've had for a while, a number of years. I got it at Book of the Month when it came out. And I'm not going to go into a full review because I've done that on my channel and other videos. I'm going to tell you why it stands out for me. Stories of mothers and daughters are just buzzwords for me. And the different timelines that we see in this story, and I mean, there's a language barrier, there's a difference in culture, and when the story opens, Mina Lee has passed away, and there's a lot that she can't answer as her daughter is going through her things and trying to figure out what happened to her. Her mom's not there to answer her questions. I just really enjoyed the relationship between the mother and daughter in the flashbacks that we see, but also, like I said, as the daughter is getting to know her mom even after death, things that they had in common, that fascinating thinking of your mom as she was at your age, to me, that's always an interesting thing to think about. So that's at number 8. At number 7 is All the Sinners Bleed by S.A. Cosby. I read 2 S.A. Cosbys in 2025. The second one that I read was King of Ashes, which I didn't enjoy as much as enjoy is a really weird word to use with S.A. Cosby, because he's grit, he's violence, he's really deep, emotionally fraught stories. He's not for everyone. There's blood and guts, gore, that kind of thing. The reason this book kind of stuck with me is the characters were really endearing, and also I feel like it's a situation where this happens all too often. And Cosby really gets to a side of it, seeing the victim side of it, explaining that even when someone is a perpetrator, they can also be a victim. And just that exploration of the town, of the racism, of the, parent-child relationship as well. It had me from the, if you've read it, that first chapter really grabs you. And yeah, that was very memorable. At number 6, People We Meet on Vacation by Emily Henry. This is the second Emily Henry that I've read. I think last year I read Beach Read, which was my first Emily Henry book. I liked this one a lot. I liked the banter. Emily Henry can write some banter. That's kind of what I really appreciate and why it's a favorite, is just having that banter. I'm like, how can I have a favorites list and not have Emily Henry on it? Because I've read 2. I want to read all of Emily Henry's books, and mainly for the banter. I do like storylines of kind of the friends to lovers is probably, and I think with this book I realized is one of my favorite romance tropes, which I don't read a lot of romance, but that seems to be one of my favorite romance tropes, and this was a great example of it. So at number 5 is The Trees by Percival Everett. This book is creepy and heartbreaking. For this book, one of the things that I just remember the opening scenes, and also the family connections, the community connections, whether for good or bad, whether they were covering up crimes or not, was just really, that just really was memorable for me. Percival Everett, this is the first Percival Everett I've read, and he's an incredible writer, and I hope to read more of his backlist in the next, couple of years. I don't own any of them, but I do want to read more from him. At number 4 is another book that sat on my TBR for a long time, and it really reminds me that I really want to get through my backlist. All of these, I want to get through them because there's some gems hidden back there that I don't even realize. This is A Place for Us by Fatima Farheen Mirza, and this was a recommendation from Hannah May. This is one of her favorite books that she's talked about, and I think she talked about it the first time I'd heard of it. She mentioned it years ago, and I found it at a thrift store, like all the good things, and it's the cover I like. Why didn't I read it sooner? It is a deep look at family and expectations, cultural expectations, as well as different cultures and how they interact with those and impact those expectations. The sibling relationships, most specifically, are what stood out the most to me in this book. So when I mentioned earlier that mothers and daughters are kind of a buzzword for me, sisters, siblings, sisters mainly because I have a sister, but sibling groups are kind of a buzz for me too. The family drama, this all takes place mostly at a wedding, but we get flashbacks to why relationships are what they are at this point in their lives at this wedding. And so we get that history, and it almost made me cry, especially the end part. Yeah. So we do see, and one of the things about sibling groups that I like is seeing the interaction of the different siblings with the parents, because it's not the same for any of the siblings. It's different for each sibling, how they interact with both mother and father. So this was done really well. Highly recommend that one. All right, now we're down to the top 3. And these, I said, I feel pretty confident that they're in the order which they would be no matter what day of the month, year. This is one that I just read at number 3, is Angels at the Gate by Sherry Joseph. This is about basically students at an elite isolated school. It's not a cult, but it has those kind of vibes, because it's fraternity, sorority, secret society kind of things happening. It's just the messiness of what college and social interactions can be. And I think part of it being elite, you get a lot of, privilege, money can cover up anything kind of vibes going on. And then you have 1 or 2 scholarship kids that didn't come from all that. And that all has a pretty strong place in this book. I really enjoyed the writing style, and I don't always need everything wrapped up, but I did like how it was wrapped up in the end. So this was, like I said, very memorable. So at number 2, this was an event I went to in January and had the best time. Got to hear the author speak, and she's one of my favorite authors. We're talking about Alice Feeney, and Beautiful Ugly is, I think, the thing about Alice Feeney is she writes incredible stories, like where she comes up with these things. And even when in talking with her and people were asking her where she comes up with them, it was fascinating to me. And this story was no different. The setting itself was a big part of the story. And I think that for me, I never really thought about it until now, because Angels at the Gate, the college campus, was a big part of that story, and the setting of this story as well. And the twist at the end, Alice always gets me. There's parts of the story, the mystery, that I think, oh, I'm gonna figure this out. And sometimes I'm right, sometimes I'm half right. But there's always that twist, and I'm like, wait, nope, didn't see it coming. So Alice Feeney never lets me down. And then my favorite book of the year is a book that I actually read on my way to the Alice Feeney event, and was so into the book that even after the event, when I had Alice Feeney's book, I had to finish reading the book I was reading. And I'm talking about A Little Luck by Claudia Pinheiro. This was one of the first couple of books I read in 2025, and I'm still thinking about it. Claudia Pinheiro, this is translated by Frances Riddle, and this is the second book I've read from Claudia Pinheiro, and the first one I read by her, Elena Knows, was also just incredible. And this is a story that really focuses on what a mother does for her child. And the scenes, the flashbacks were seamless for me. It's not always the case, but they were pretty seamless for me. And in reading this, I'm not a mother myself, but I really felt like it was done in such a way that I could relate to the main character, and you know, you really question, what would you do in that situation? Heartbreaking, another one that almost made me cry. And also the other relationships around the mother and child relationship and how they impact everything. It was amazing. It was my favorite. So there we have it, my top 8 fiction books of 2025. Let me know in the comments below if you've read any of these, if you're interested in them. Like I said, part 2 will be coming out soon, and it will be best of fiction, best of middle grade, and a few superlatives about some books that I just have to mention again. So if you're interested in seeing part 2, definitely consider hitting the subscribe button, notification, all that fun stuff. And let me know in the comments below, what was your favorite fiction book of 2025? I'm always looking for recommendations. I hope y'all are doing well, and I will see you soon. Bye.